I know it may not look like it, but it's a cold winter day here in Florida. Obviously, the resident brat doesn't care. But I'm only staying out here long enough to film this, and I'm going back inside where it's warm. Yucky. To me, it's a perfect excuse for a big pot of something that'll warm your innards, like lentils. Cameo, naturally. It's the only brand I use anymore. Add cornbread, and I call it a meal. Now, cooking for one, as I do, I generally make half recipes of things. And when I do manage to get them all into the measuring cup, I'm using about a half a pound. Now, after they've been washed and checked for rocks, dump them in a pan, a pot. And for a half a pound of beans, add a half a quart or 2 cups of water. And bring it up to a boil. And now give them a stir. Cover. Reduce the heat to a low simmer and let them go just like this for about an hour. And while they simmer and do their thing, about a tablespoon of EVOO into a pan. And I'm adding half an onion, chopped, a nice clove of garlic, finely chopped, and some seasoning meat. In this case, it's a couple of Park's Best hickory smoked hot dogs, just because. You can use any seasoning meat you want: bacon, ham, kielbasa, andouille, any smoked sausage. I've been playing with these, so I thought I'd give them a try with some lentils. Now I'll saute these until the onions tend to go translucent. Get back in there, you. Over medium-low heat. This might take about 4 or 5 minutes. Careful not to burn the garlic. And after a few minutes, onions are getting nice and soft. Dump it all in. Add about a half teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt to taste. And I'm kicking it up with, a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper. And cover it back up. Back to a slow simmer again for maybe another half hour. I forgot to show it, but I also added a good healthy splash of Worcestershire sauce to it for that extra little bite. Meanwhile, the cornbread. I have a cup of cornmeal, specifically this, a cup of flour. You can use either all-purpose or whole wheat, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and a half teaspoon or so of baking soda. And we start by whisking all of these dry ingredients together. And before you go any further, preheat your oven to 425. Put a couple of tablespoons of bacon grease, yes, bacon grease, into your cast iron skillet and preheat it with the oven to get it good and hot. And meanwhile, back to the business at hand. Make a well in the middle of it. Add a well-beaten egg. And a cup of milk. And I'm adding a quarter of a cup of maple syrup, just because I can. And now we whisk all of this together, trying to keep from splattering it all over the counter. Mix thoroughly, but don't flog it to death. That looks good enough. Now when the oven and pan are preheated, we'll dump all of this in. Now it's good and hot. Dump this into it. Squish it around. You note that it is already starting to cook. It's part of the process. Get this pan hot. And remember to use hot pads when you pick it up. Back in the oven. 425 for about 20 minutes. And now to assemble. Let's get this show on the road. The lentils. That looks like a good start. Some cornbread. A little steamed fresh asparagus on the side. With a little butter, of course. And garnished with a little slivered Reggiano. Add the champagne. And one last look before I trash it. Lentils with hot dogs. Asparagus with Reggiano and butter. Cornbread. Champagne. If you'll excuse me, I have piggery to commit.